Hey, what's happening, everybody? Robert Phoenix here, broadcasting to you live from Fredericksburg, Texas. What's happening? What's going on? I think I've got the right channel, if I'm not mistaken, since I always seem to ping pong back and forth between channels. So let me just make sure I've got the right channel up here. Do a quick little check, right? Check a mic, check. Where am I with you people? Can you hear me now? Tommy, can you hear me? Tommy, can you hear me? Tommy, can you see me? Let me just see what we got here. Yeah, you know, I'm on the wrong channel. 11th house. I guess I'm okay, right? All right. Hey, what's going on, Judy? Hello. Yep, getting back on track here. Hello, Liz. Liz, my pal Liz from Brisbane. What's going on, everybody? I can't seem to find me on YouTube, which is odd, but I'm not gonna sweat it too much. I'm just gonna let it roll. How is everybody? On the cusp of a new year. How was everybody's Christmas? Did we have a good Christmas? Was Christmas good? I'm on YouTube now. Hi, Kathleen. Let's see what else we have here. People just checking in. We got 15 people watching now. We got 3 thumbs up. Hi, Justice. It was good. My mother, man, my mother's not doing so well. My mother, excellent. New house. Yeah, all right. Way to go for the new house. Jennifer says Christmas is great. I love it. Good. Keep those great Christmas vibes flowing. It's a good thing to do. Yeah, my mother's still sick. She's not doing so well. There's this virus called RSV. Have you guys heard about that? It's the RSV virus. It comes on and I think it hangs out for, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks. At least that's how long it was with me. It starts off as like a common cold, gets into your chest, and then just wreaks havoc, right? So she's got that. And she's not a real happy camper. And she got sick, you know, 2 days after I got there, she came down with the virus. Let me, I think I'm going to try to change video settings here. Let me just see if I can do this here. Hold on one sec. That way we can have a better, more robust stream. Hold on one sec. Here we go. And I can still talk, less latency. Yes, we like that. This is good. Beautiful. Hardwired in to the experience. That's what we are. That's where we are. That's what we're doing. Let's see what else we have here. I guess I am visible now online. Of course. This is it. Yeah, it was a bummer. You know, when older people get sick, it is a major deal. It's a really big deal when older people get sick. And, you know, my mom is, she's 81, and you begin to think about people differently. I've been thinking about her differently for a while now. And, you know, my intuitive sense is that we're going to see a lot of death, I think, in 2019. I've had 3 people, 2 men, tell me that their mother has passed away within the last week. One is a young man who I knew, and his mother was a pretty gifted psychic, and I knew her back in California, back in the 90s, wonderful woman. And I got a text from her, an email from her son, told me she passed on Christmas Eve. So she wasn't terribly old. And then a good friend of mine, Mark Petrakis, his mother just passed away a few days ago. And Mark is a really, really great guy. He's been kind of a fixture on the San Francisco party scene. His mother was 90. And then, you know, one of my Facebook friends, Deb Hart, passed away. And Deb was not, she was not old, right? She was, sort of in this kind of middle area. So that's 3 people, all within the span of a week. And it feels like that we're going to start to see kind of a higher frequency in death rate. It just feels that way. I mean, I'm sure we could drill down to some of the astrology around it. Maybe as Saturn gets closer to Pluto and Capricorn, we'll see kind of more of a mainstream, rendition or the reflection of mainstream numbers. The way things are going right now is that it's really starting to feel like a bit like a sci-fi movie in some ways. Like, did you guys see what happened in New York the other night with that transformer? Like, maybe if that was really I mean, it was. I watched videos of this thing. It blew my mind. The way that it started off, and then just the sheer intensity of the light going from blue to green. I mean, it was wild, absolutely wild stuff. And so we're, there's that, right? And the world is just feeling rather disconnected in a lot of ways. And I think I'm probably understating it to some degree. And we'll get into some of that tonight. A lot of the disconnection is happening at a one-to-one level. And what I mean one-to-one level, it's like person to person. So I was watching a video of this trans person who went nuts on this guy because this trans person didn't like this guy's use of pronouns. And we're just entering into really weird territory. I mean, really, really weird territory. Martina Navratilova, who's she's an Aries rising and very, very gifted, talented tennis player, a true woman who excelled at the sport of tennis. And she came out and started to talk about how men basically competing as women wasn't fair. So it wasn't fair because there are now more and more cases of men who are switching sports and dominating in a pretty significant fashion. So Martina Navratilova had to capitulate and basically say that, she was in the wrong. She didn't want to spread any transphobia. I mean, it's really getting really strange just on that front alone, right? Just on that front alone. And there's just so much high strange going on right now. And then we'll try to break this down astrologically, of course, but I'm just kind of setting the table for you, right? Because we're moving into a time now, like I feel like the next few days are like the calm before the storm. I wanted to share a dream that one of the friends of the show shared with me. And it was about a false flag attack, and it happened in Brooklyn on New Year's Eve. So I'm just putting it out there into the noosphere that we're kind of onto this thing. We've been onto this thing for a while now. And people are starting to get prophetic dreams about future events, which is interesting because perhaps through those future events, we're actually kind of ameliorating some of the effects of those future events, getting them worked out into dreams. I've had a really hard time sleeping. I don't know if anybody else has had a hard time sleeping, but last night I popped 4 of these herbal sleep aids, and you know what? I slept really well. I slept all through the night. I had good dreams. I'm like, I'm hoping for a nice act 2 tonight. So, but that's another thing. I think people are starting to get, cooked in some of the 5G electric cocktail, because I think we're all running now at a really high rate. I think it's really hard to get sleep. And I think it's going to be more of an issue. And I know for a fact with this virus, people have had a hard time sleeping as well. Anyway, it feels like we're at the calm before the storm. It's really just before the new Democrats, or the old Democrats in some case, come storming into the House of Representatives, ready to take Trump's head. But again, I've never seen anything like the Trump thing in my entire life. It's like the media who Trump completely pissed off, and the Democrats who Trump completely pissed off. All they care about is taking him down. They don't give a shit about America. They don't give a shit about trying to, work things out. They don't give a shit about any of that. They just want to take it down. And of course, the left-right paradigm is kind of a joke anyway. But there are useful idiots on both sides of that supposed left-right paradigm that play things out, right? They play them out, so they get played out, and we get to see them getting played out. In some cases, it's utterly ridiculous. I've been talking with Emily about this guy Sargon of Akkad. Some of you might know what happened. He's a Virgo, by the way. He happens to be kind of a hard lefty, but he's a hard lefty that doesn't embrace political correctness. And he got deplatformed off of Patreon. And the whole thing is really weird. We're going to get into some of this again tonight. The whole thing is really weird because he was on a separate show. He was on a separate YouTube channel. He wasn't even on his own YouTube channel. Okay, he wasn't even on his own YouTube channel. He was on somebody else's YouTube channel. This was 10 months ago. He's being interviewed, and he used the N-word in relation to another N-word, also known as the Nazis, right? And he was trying to prove a point in kind of a Lenny Bruceian kind of way. Well, apparently there were people who caught wind of that, and they eventually went to Patreon, and they started to complain to Patreon about the fact that he used the N-word, right? So Patreon saw that and said, oh, well, we got to deplatform you, meaning that he can't make any money off Patreon anymore. So he went into their rules and conditions for what constitutes, civil behavior and civil speech. He violated none of their quote unquote bylaws. And they sent him an email letter that said, well, this is, if you do these things on your channel, and we feel as if you're, crossing lines that are hateful, disrespect, whatever, right? We'll deplatform you. But nowhere did it say anything about him being on somebody else's channel, right? So he went back and he showed them what he did, and that it had nothing to do with his channel. It had nothing to do with his Patreon account because it wasn't plugged into his channel. And even if it did, the way that he used the word was in the context of Nazis. They came back with another email, and basically it said, now get this, this is important now, because this is where everything is going. And the email said, we can remove you from Patreon based on your activity across any platform or any medium. So if he did something, let's say on Twitter, and Patreon got wind of it and didn't like it, guess what? They could deplatform him. That's what would happen. So they kept changing their terms and conditions until finally it fit whatever it is that they needed in order to eviscerate him from being able to make money. And I was watching this guy, Jack Conte, who's the head of Patreon. And I'll never do Patreon. I'll never do that thing now. I thought about it. I'll never do Patreon. And he has this thing called, what is it? Measurable, observable behavior. Measurable, observable behavior. That's an acronym for MOB. And they use measurable, observable behavior metrics to determine whether or not somebody's going to be able to continue to monetize their content. So we're in this place now, and I think some of it still has to do with sort of the last degrees of Chiron and Pisces, and everybody is in this place of victimization and feeling as if they're being singled out, or and to some extent people are being singled out, but we're in that final kind of drip line, those last degrees of Chiron and Pisces. And the political and the social vocal landscape is really tenuous in a lot of ways, very tenuous. And there certainly seems to be two sets of rules. There's a set of rules for a certain group who can say just about anything. And then there's another set of rules for another group who really can't say shit, right? And this is becoming clearer and clearer and clearer. And this divide is continuing to create a wedge in our society and our culture. Anyway, there's that. And we have the shutdown. And that's interesting, right? I mean, we're going to get into Trump tonight. We're going to be looking at his chart. And Paris is still burning. Who knows what's going on over there? I think Macron is on the hot seat. I've heard that, they want to remove him, that they're over him. Well, just, remove him, find a scandal or something. I don't know. I'm sure there's something in his background. Wouldn't be that hard. All these people are compromised anyway. I guess I want to create a little bit of chaos. Then I was watching, so this is the kind of world we're living in now, okay? So now Cliff High comes into my chat room every now and then. I don't know if they'll be in here tonight. Now Cliff High is pushing 5G. He thinks 5G is good. I don't know why. I haven't seen his recommendations of 5G. Emily's just told me about this. So we got Cliff High pushing 5G. And then you have Alex Jones basically saying that the Rothschilds are good, that the Rothschilds are going to give money back because they're afraid there's going to be a bloodbath. And they're in a turf war with the Rockefellers. He said this guy was talking about it on a show the other night. I'm like, this is the kind of world we're living in. Everything's flipped upside down. Maybe Cliff High was always a 5G guy. I don't know, but now he's a 5G guy. And now the Rothschilds are good guys. I mean, it's really a trip. You want to come up here? Jasper wants to come up here, but I'm not in the same location. Come on up. Well, come up here. Come up here. Come on. Come on. Come on. People want to say hi to you. Come on. Come on. Come on. This is not like, oh, here comes Rosie. This is not, okay. It's not like Nathan. His cats just, completely zone out. They're all zenned out. My cats tend to be kind of active. All right. You know what? I'll build you something. I'll build you something so they can be part of the new studio. All right. Let me just peek some of your comments and we'll get into the chart of the moment. What's going on, everybody? We got Feline Vibes Rock, according to Cliff, I believe. It's to fight the aliens. Okay. All right. We'll see. Cliff Heidel has lost his marbles. He might be in here tonight. You may want to ask. He shows up every now and then. Happy New Year, y'all. Yorkshire Dales. It's windy and cold at 1:30 a.m. I'm still up. Tut tut. Love to all here. What's up, Sticky Marks? Christine, I could not sleep last night either. Katos, missed you. Missed all you guys too. Solar Grand minimum is upon us. Certainly feels that way. Let's see, Macadow. Yo, yo, yo. Good to see you. Yeah, nice to see you too. Happy New Year, Lori. What else we have here? My friend went to sleep on Friday night and didn't wake up. Early 40s. There you go. Bang. They said she had a heart attack. Sad, but also very weird. Didn't smoke, drink, etc. Just an average, relatively healthy person. The trans guy has a lot of testosterone. I saw that. Yeah, they tend to. I don't think. I just don't think that they can. Okay, Justice says he thinks 5G is shielding our minds from insectoids. I encountered the insectoid consciousness one time, and it's quite real, by the way. I encountered it when I was having an exploration on Ibogaine a long time ago, and it is a very real consciousness. Hello, Paulette. I don't know about the 5G thing. helping us out. Another really weird death. I just got to put this one out there. I put it up on my Facebook page. Let me see if I can retrieve this information. This guy, Chris Burrows, who was an anchor at KTLA, he was on the scene at Borderline. He was there. He was, you know, on the scene. He was doing a live remote from Borderline. He's dead, 43 years old. He's gone. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. Apparently he overdosed. Apparently. Yeah, look, I think, you know, Randy and Emily and I did a bang-up show, and I think it's going to be airing pretty soon. And one of the things that, you know, we got into in kind of a big way was this whole idea of, you know, the fourth turning, which I am totally convinced we are clearly in at this point. And, you know, I have to say that the energy is pretty dark right now. I mean, we're in the darkest time of the year. And it feels slightly ominous out there. You know, it just kind of feels that way. You know, I don't have a sense of anxiety or anything, but it just feels ominous. The energy feels heavy. Let's put it that way. Well, why shouldn't it? The moon just went into Scorpio. That's why. Let me just make sure I get the right settings here so I can go in and we can do the chart of the moment and look at what's happening astrologically, because that is what this show is ostensibly about. It is astrology. By the way, the class, Thinking Astrologically and Beyond, is going really, really well. I'm thrilled over what we're doing, and people are into it. They're enjoying it. At least most people are. I had one person drop out. Just one. That's not bad. I'd say that's not bad. Oh, come on. Let's get in here. Extended chart selection. Let's go. Come on. Here we go. All right. Modify data. Let's modify the data. And let's get in here. Let's move this around. And let's do Austin, Texas. Texas, here we go. All right. So we had a great party, by the way, on last Saturday night. It was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. One person from my internet world showed up. Another wanted to come, but she couldn't make it. She listened to the show too. We'll do it again next year. We had I made salmon for 12 people. It was great. Next year it's paella. Made paella yesterday. It's my new thing. All right, let's get into the chart of the moment. I'm going to pop it up here. We're going to do a little screen shareage. There we go. Share that screen. Share that screen. Here we go. All right. There it is. The old chart of the moment. 7 degrees Leo right there. As we speaketh, or as I speaketh, the true node over here in the 12th house. And yep, moon just went into Scorpio and it's right on the IC. Yeah, see, I'm feeling the intensity. I'm feeling this darkness. And Pluto, the moon is like the final degrees here squaring up against, final degrees of Libra, it's squaring up against Pluto. It's a very wide square though, right? Talking almost 10 degrees. But it's right here. It's just hanging out down on the Nichole. So this is, you know, from in Austin, but if you're anywhere in the continental US or even in the UK, Liz, I think you're ahead of us. So you've already got the moon in Scorpio. But that's the energy that we're dealing with right now. And we have the inconjunct to Mars, right? Let's just see what we got there. There's Mars. Yeah, there's that inconjunct at 150 degree angle. And we've got Mars at 29 Pisces. That's right. So on the 2nd of January, Mars goes into Aries, and that's intense, explosive, martial energy. And there's something, as we get closer here, I think it's about as close as this gets, because by tomorrow, the moon will have moved out of that 2 to 3 degree orb that you have to have. Anytime you get out of 3 degrees on that orb with the inconjunct, it doesn't count. So it's right now, right? It's right now. So what we do with the inconjunct is we're trying to feel right into this. We're trying to feel into this aspect, because we're starting right down here at the bottom of the chart, right? This is the nadir or the nadir. It's right there at the bottom. It's the valley. It's the gorge of the chart. And up here we have Mars at the second highest point on the chart. It's not quite at apex. That's Uranus, which is in opposition to the moon. So we have some very interesting energies tonight. We have energies that are kind of uncomfortable and destabilizing, to be honest with you. So here we are, right, with this broken line. This broken line is the inconjunct. It's one of my favorite aspects in astrology, to be honest with you, because there's such an intense mystery around the inconjunct. You see all these other lines, clear path, even though they're red or they're blue. The inconjunct is not a clear path. It's a broken path. And so you've got to find a way to get from here to here. And the way that you do that is you feel into it. You feel into it. My favorite analogy for the inconjunct has to do with the movie The X-Men, and where Professor X used to sit in the middle of the underground location there. And he put that headgear on, and he'd like be able to connect with all the different mutants all across the planet. Well, in order to get to him, you got to the edge of like the basement, then you stepped out. And when you stepped out, there was a little piece of metal that you step onto, like you're stepping off into air, right? And then it'd be another one and another one. And then next thing you know, you get a bridge all the way across. You get the hall pass to go see Professor X. So this is what the inconjunct is like. Here we go. Chart of the moment's changing. We're at 8 degrees Leo now on the ascendant. So this is what the inconjunct is like. You've got to step into it. You're stepping into air. You're stepping into the void. This is like the path across the chart during a new moon, where it's dark, although the moon isn't new. So what we're doing now is we're taking kind of this intense scorpionic energy on an emotional level that we're all tapping into, right? We tap into it. And at least what I was trying to do, and maybe other people, but trying to feel into this kind of Mars piece. And of course, at the final degrees of Pisces, again, we're into that language of martyrdom and victimhood and the things that go along with Pisces, but also Mars just in general, violence, guns, action, explosiveness. So this could be a very interesting night in terms of people dreaming and having insight into what's happening. I mean, it feels to me like, because I know I'm not a huge dreamer. When I was younger, I was an amazing dreamer. I had, incredible dreams, prophetic dreams, lucid dreams. Shit, I had missing time dreams where I was like, on a UFO craft one time. A lot of it has to do with the fact that my sleep is really irregular. But I know a number of people are really powerful dreamers. And I think we're going to move into a time where people are going to have very powerful dreams. And some of those dreams will be corroborated between people. So I think this would be a night where you could probably have some deep insight. You want to get up here? Come on, get up here. You can come up here. You can make it. Come on. He's back. Come on. Come on. Here, come on. You want up here? We'll say hi to the people. Come on. You come up. You might know. Come up. Don't keep them waiting. I'll lose viewers. Okay. We'll figure it out. I know you want to be a part of it. I know. So pay attention to your dreams tonight with this new moon in Scorpio. I hope that a lot of you who are working are actually not going to work tomorrow. I really hope you're not going to work. Not because I think anything weird is going to happen, but I just think that going to work on a Scorpio moon, on like the last day of the year, the Gregorian year, could be a bit heavy. You're still going to, See, at least you get New Year's Day. And then you can start, the new year with basically with the Moon and Sag, or at least we'll avoid a course action in Moon and Sag. That would be good. So the Scorpio Moon is going to be very intense tomorrow. And it's an intense moon for a New Year's Eve, the New Year's Eve celebration. It's not, I wouldn't call it convivial, I wouldn't call it convivial. But we're always going to get close to this point of the moon right around this time of year. Won't always be at the exact same degree, but be very, very close. And there's something about the death of the year and something about putting things away and transforming them and moving on, especially on an emotional level. I mean, look, if you're somebody who wants to, cleanse or heal or let go of things or have something, die in your life. I mean, this Scorpio new moon coming in on, or not the new moon, but Scorpio moon coming in on a New Year's Eve day can be very, very powerful. And then we've got the conjunction coming up with the moon conjuncting Venus. And that'll be close to, I don't think it'd be quite tomorrow night. It'd be very close. So I think the moon will probably be around around 14 or so, 14 or 15. So it'll be close, but it won't be exact. I think that'll be a New Year's Day. New Year's Day, we're going to have that Moon-Venus conjunction, which won't be terrible. It'll be okay, right? I mean, transforming relationship, deep relationship, family relationship. Oh, look who's coming up. He's making the journey. Look who's here. Well, this is the new scene, man. Say hi to everybody. Good, but you got to say hi to everybody now that you made the journey. There he is. Say hi to everybody, Jasper. There we go. There he is, the Astro Cat, making his appearance. He's got to get in on it. Look how white Jasper's face is getting. He's turning into an old cat. You happy now? How do you feel about that Scorpio moon? Huh? How do you feel about it? Are you okay with it? I think you are. I think you're okay with that Scorpio moon. Venus is 22 degrees Scorpio. Oh, here we go. And it's going to be moving into Sagittarius by the end of the week. And that'll be interesting. I think by the end of the week, things brighten up a little bit. As long as we don't have any crazy shit happen on New Year's Eve, which is possible. It is very, very possible because things feel very, very tenuous in a lot of ways. There's a lot of tenuous energy. And maybe it's the opposition to Uranus and yin conjunct to Mars, but there's a lot of tenuous energy in the air. We got that Pluto square to Uranus, of course. That's going to be going on for, it's going to end as soon as Uranus eventually goes into Taurus here, not too long from now. But by the time Venus gets to Sagittarius, she'll be sleeping. By the time Venus gets into Sagittarius, by the end of the week, it feels like things are going to brighten up. We're going to have Venus in Sag, Jupiter in Sag, Mercury in Sag, and then the Sun is coming up on Saturn. Oh, wow, guess what? I'm having my Saturn return right now. Saturn just went to 11 degrees Capricorn. So I got the Saturn return happening because that's where my Saturn is, 11 degrees Capricorn. And in 2 days, I'll have Saturn, Sun on Saturn. That'll be interesting. What do you think's going to happen, Jasper? You think I'll feel old then? Think that'll happen? What else? We have Mercury. Mercury is squaring. Let's see. We got a Mercury square to Mars, and we have Mercury square to Neptune. Boy, it's not a great Mercury, to be honest with you, right? And it's going to get Mars. So Mars will move a little bit. It's going to be trailing each other, right? Mercury's going to change a degree per day, and then we get Mars into Aries. At least it'll be in a fire sign and not in a water sign. It'll create intense steam, and that Mercury square. It's just, that's not a great energy. It's not great for lucid thinking, and in terms of sharing your ideas. I think a Mercury square to Mars could be a bit overbearing. could be a bit overbearing. Watch that energy over the course of the next couple of days, and try not to be too heavy-handed. But at the same time, you know, squares aren't all bad, and having some persistence and trying to get to the bottom of something can be quite good with a Mercury-Mars square. You know, give some mental fortitude and some mental energy. But the Mercury-Neptune square, this is certainly not a great time to indulge in any kind of narcotics, right? Now with that Mercury-Neptune square, Mercury-Mars square. We've got a Jupiter square also with Neptune. I think a Jupiter-Neptune square, I don't think Jupiter squares are bad. I think they're actually, for the most part, okay. Because what they do is they open us up. You know, they kind of tease things open, right? It's like, you know, well, you know, if you got a Jupiter-Neptune square, maybe you'd be seeing the world through rose-colored glasses, or maybe you would be so hyper positive that you sort of gloss over the details of life. I mean, sometimes it's not a bad energy. I think it's better to be over enthusiastic or over optimistic at times. I really do. I think if you lean into that a little bit, like not all the time, but I think sometimes it's okay. Sometimes it's okay, because when you lean into it like that, if you're in the dumps or you're in a kind of a negative trough, you can kind of bring yourself out of it. And I actually know people who are quite good at that, and they're adept at changing their state. And I think a Jupiter square to Neptune could help you in terms of changing that state. Everything's happening right now in all of the transpersonal planets, with the exception of Uranus. We've got Venus, we've got Jupiter, we got Mercury, we got the Sun, Saturn, we got Pluto, Neptune, Chiron, and then Mars, final degrees of Mars. On the second, it goes into Aries, and it won't be in a transpersonal sign. So we have Uranus and even the moon now in Scorpio. Uranus is the only planet that is in a personal sign, Aries. So when we have a lot of activity in the transpersonal realm or the outer planets, that means there's going to be a lot going on in the outside world. You know, that means there's going to be a lot happening in terms of the out there space. So even though things are shutting down, even though the government is shut down, we're clearly not going to go without some stimuli on the social scene, or on the collective or the global scene for that matter. Okay, what else? Anything else here? I just think the most interesting part of tonight's chart is this in conjunct with the moon into Mars. And it's just a sense, this is intuitive sense that something's in the air. Something's in the air. Now, again, by the time you get up tomorrow, that moon will be a little bit deeper into Scorpio, but first, it'll be first decan. We've had the last couple of days with the moon in Libra. Hopefully people have been nice to you, been nice to other people. I'm not afraid of the Scorpio moon. I dig Scorpio. And I know a lot of people with Scorpio moons, and as long as you're straight with them and right with them, man, they are good people. But Scorpio moon people have challenges to work through in life. You know, their biggest challenge is, possessiveness. It's possessiveness. And I'm learning how to let go of things, especially now. What are you doing, Jasper? Jasper has decided he's gonna talk into the mic. No, you can't do that. You can't do that. This is not meant for that. Okay. I think Jasper is now decided he's going to take over. Jasper's a terrorist. He's decided to take over the broadcast. So I'm going to have to send him off to Guantanamo for cats. Guantanamo. That's where Jasper's going. Guantanamo. Okay, let's get out of the stop share. Let me hang in there, hang out with you guys, talk about the chart of the moment, get some feedback, see what's going on with you guys. Let's see. Yeah, a lot of people. This is a really totally great group. Totally great group. Everybody shows up. I don't have the biggest channel on YouTube, but I got the best people. I can say that. Yeah, Guantanamo. That's where Jasper is now. So, I guess we should. What should we get into? Okay, I think here's where I'm going to go. I'm going to get into, you guys know this Chris Watts guy is, right? Do I use whole sign houses? No, I do not. Reggio Monteris. No. So I don't use whole signs or whole sign houses now. I feel like it's more interesting in some ways. Although the whole signs are I think, are easier to interpret. If anybody's starting off with astrology, I think whole signs are a really good thing to understand. It makes things easier. So all the Scorpio moons I know are dark beauties. All right, let's get into some Scorpio moon territory tonight. All right, so let me do this. Let me throw this graphic up here. Oh, I already did this. Hold on. There we go. By the way, I just made a major investment today in studio equipment. So starting next week, I think we're going to have a bit of a different experience here. All right, so let me bust out the share here, and I'm gonna. Okay, so you guys know who this guy is? This is Chris Watts. I think it's appropriate to go into this material on the Scorpio moon. So I don't follow. I do follow some mainstream news, but I have to say not all of it. I tend to stay away from murders because there's so many of them. But I kept seeing this case on Yahoo again and again and again. And they would keep throwing this guy's face up. And they keep throwing the face up of his wife and two girls that it's like he killed, right? So I thought to myself, well, you know, what's going on with this guy's chart? You know, what's happening here? What sort of aspects does he have? Who is he? Well, I kind of found out, kind of. So I know when he's born. He was born May 15th, 1985, makes him a Taurus. And then I did a search for the chart of Nichole Kessinger, who was his lover, or at least not the chart, her date of birth. So I have that. I don't have her birth time. So what I had to do is, you know, just kind of kludge together sort of the best way that I knew how, an approximation of their rising signs. But we do know where their planets are, and for the most part, where their moons. Okay, so one of the things that I did is I was trying to get a handle on Chris Watts from a physical perspective to sort of corroborate my rectification. So one of the things that I noticed about him was he's a good-looking guy, and his face tends to be very symmetrical, you know, which is always one of the clear marks of somebody who's considered to be either handsome or attractive. However, there is also a bit of darkness to him, right? And all the photos you see are of him with a beard, right? And his face is kind of obscured or covered up. And what's interesting here is, like, you know, you can almost see, you know, and I'm not saying this because, well, maybe I am. You can almost see the devil horns here in his haircut. You know what I mean? So he was born in North Carolina. He's from North Carolina, and he wound up matriculating to Colorado and working for a petroleum company. He was married to his wife, Shannon Watts. That's Shannon with an A, Shannan. And they had two girls, and they were expecting another child. And he killed him, right? Killed him. And you have to ask yourself, you know, well, maybe you don't. But, you know, why? And you look at the kids, and of course the girls are adorable, and the wife is pretty. Although there are a few pictures of the wife, because I've been studying her face. There are a few pictures of the wife where you can see kind of this almost like orbital decay in her face. You know, you could see that something was happening with her, that something wasn't completely right. Anyway, he carried on a secret or private affair with a woman that he worked with, Nichole Kessinger. And we're going to get into her as well, okay? So I'm going to bring up his chart so you guys can look at it. Now, apparently, one of the things he's got going on here is that he's getting all kinds of love letters from women who want to support him and love him and be with him, which is not uncommon, by the way. You know, real murderous psychopaths tend to attract women who will do anything for them. You know, Charles Manson, I think, got married in prison and had semi-regular conjugal visits. Go figure. All right. So I'm going to bring up this chart. And again, this is a chart that, let me see if I can find it. I got all these charts out. This is a chart that I drew together here. So many freaking charts. Okay, we got that, we got that. Let me see if I can find it. I feel like the doddering professor. Hold on. I got charts for Israel. I got charts for Trump. I got charts for China, China and Israel. I got Eclipse charts. I got plenty of charts. I should go into the chart business. Just sell charts. All right, where are you, Chris? Okay, I'm going to go back into, let's go back over here. All right, I'm going to go back into AstroLiveStream because it's over there. Uno momentito, por favor. That's the chart of the moment. Where is he? It's going to be here. Okay, so let me just go in here. Give me one sec. Okay. This would be good. Allow me to do something a little bit different. So right now I'm in the back end of astro.com, and I'm going to just throwing in his natal chart with some transits. We're going to look at the true node, descending node, aspects to Chiron. Let's do these, put these in there. And let's throw Antares. Antares in there. Okay, here we go. Okay. All right, so I'm going to pop this out, and we're going to do another screen share. Okay, here we go. This is Chris Watts's chart, or at least the chart that I put together for him, you know, based on some rectification. Because again, I don't know a lot about this guy, but what I tried to do is I you know, what he did is a total 8th house operation, right? Everything was behind the scenes, dark, kind of lurid. You know, once he and Nichole Kessinger met each other, they were seeing each other 4 times a week. So they had a very probably erotic sexual relationship. And he's got Mars in Gemini, which is kind of kinky to begin with. And he's got this opposition with Uranus, which to me represents sort of an impulsive quality, you know. But with Mars in the 8th house, it's much more measured and darker and deeper. You know, if Mars was up in, say, the 9th house, it'd be very different, you know, with Uranus opposition. I mean, this would be a guy that'd be moving all over the place, traveling all around the world, extremely restless. And I think he was restless, but the restlessness was hidden and tucked away. He's got big Gemini stuff going on here, right? Vertex in Gemini, Sun in Gemini, Taurus rather, Chiron in Gemini. He's got a Mars Chiron conjunction in Gemini, right? So he's got 2 sides. He's got a dark side, This is the dark house. This is Scorpio's house. Okay. So what I tried to do is, kind of approximate that. And also because, most Libra rising people are either really pretty, attractive, handsome. Clearly, he's a good looking guy. I've had women tell me he's a good looking guy. But I couldn't have him all, Mr. Nice Libra. No, I had, because there's a darkness to this guy. And when you hear Nichole Kessinger talk about him, she talks about him that he was very soft-spoken and he was a very good listener. And to me, this would be representative of Scorpio, right, beneath Libra and taking things in. And also with Pluto in the first house, there'd be kind of an impulsive quality at times. Not always, but at times with Pluto. Now, here's where, for me, it gets, I think, for the time, and again, I'm just kind of approximating this. He met Nichole Kessinger at work. Okay, there's two places in a chart you meet people at work, either the 10th house or the 6th house. So we have we have Venus and the moon in Aries. And this is an impulsive person. Venus, moon, Aries. This is somebody who, is people have moon in Aries, Venus in Aries very clearly, and even with Libra rising, very clearly go after what they want, especially in terms of gratification on an emotional level and on a relational level. And people that have, I've seen people with Libra rising who, once they get out of another relationship, they're very quick to get into a new one. So get out of a relationship, they're quick to get into it. And that's because they have Aries over here on the 7th house cusp. But this is the 6th house, and this is the house of work, purpose, and service. So meeting her at work, I think, would pretty much qualify as kind of a 6th house deal. So there's the relationship, there's the connection. Now, what would propel him to do what he did? Cold-bloodedly kill and murder his wife, his 2 little girls, unborn child. I think it's down here. I think it's down in the 4th house. I think it's Jupiter in Aquarius. Aquarius is cold sometimes. And look, there are good things about Aquarius. There are good things about Aquarius, like, bright. Aquarius is bright, personable. I mean, every sign has its pluses and minuses. I can just go right down the center. There's no perfect sign. Some signs I think are a bit easier than others. So I think some signs have it tougher than others. I think Pisces is a tough sign to have. It's just a tough sign. Sometimes I think Virgo can be a difficult sign because they're the opposites, right? Sometimes I think Cancer can be a challenging sign. And every now and then, maybe Scorpio can be difficult. But I think those would probably be the most difficult signs. I think Capricorn is difficult, but Capricorn just transcends very quickly. It moves on very quickly. It doesn't get stuck in difficulty too much. Anyway, there is a cold side to Aquarius, a cold, impersonal side to Aquarius. And here we have Jupiter in Aquarius, right? So it's expanding into the 4th house. And this is somebody who probably would want actually some degree of freedom too, right? And Black Moon Lilith has been in his, again, if this is the rising sign that we're using, Black Moon Lilith would have been cruising through his 4th house. This is a dark moon. This is a dark, cold moon going through his 4th house, his home. And what is it doing? It's squaring his sun in Taurus. He has relationship needs, obviously, here. By the way, he was born 2 days before an eclipse. 2 days before a solar eclipse, right? 2 days later, bang, that true node is right there, and it's right on his vertex. And anytime you're born around a solar eclipse, there's something fated about a person's life. But he's hidden, right? With this time and this rising sign, he'd be dark and he'd be hidden. in the 8th house. And people would see the Libra charm. Beneath that Libra charm would be this Plutonian intensity. And the need for relationship would be carried out with this true node in Taurus. And he would have the appearance of being solid too. Mercury in Taurus, but what is Mercury doing? It's conjuncting Black Moon Lilith in Aries. And he's had Uranus around Black Moon Lilith for most of the last almost the last 7 to 8 months, which would be very impulsive. And again, let's say that the rising sign is still different. Let's say the time is off, which it could be. That Uranus is still going to be on his Black Moon Lilith, no matter where it is. And then again, Uranus brings an impulsive nature to things. He's got some of this in his chart already. He's got Uranus opposite Mars, Mars conjunct Chiron. Like, this guy's a total split personality. This guy would almost qualify. The weird thing about him is that he's from North Carolina. And there's a lot, and again, I don't know anything about his personal life other than what I've been able to kind of kludge together. But I can tell you that there's a lot of weird stuff that goes on in that research triangle in North Carolina. There's a lot of government stuff that happens in North Carolina. So could he be somebody who was split? Did he have a split personality? Was he some sort of SRA kind of person? I don't know. Possibly. I mean, anytime you get into Mars, Gemini, especially the opposition Uranus, that's explosive. But it's explosive and it's hidden. And he's got Chiron conjuncting his Mars, which is, very unusual. Now, I would say that probably, based on this chart, that this guy was probably pretty good in bed, right? Because of Mars in the 8th house. He's probably kinky, wild. There's a psychological side to this guy. Like, I think on the one hand, there's tons of pictures with him and his wife and his kids, mostly his wife. On the one hand, he's like Mr. Solid, right? Sun in Taurus, true node in Taurus, Mercury in Taurus, 7th house. But then there's like this other side that was really dark and hidden, completely dark and hidden. But I think really the calling card for all this is this Jupiter down in the 4th house, which I think is chilly, absolutely chilly. Now we also have the moon square to Neptune. That's a 9-degree orb, right? Or 8 degrees, qualifies as a square. He's not truthful. Moon Neptune square, he's lying. He lied to her the whole time. You know what? I think she knew it though. And then we have a Neptune square to Venus. It's quite wide, 10 degrees, but it's piggybacking on the moon. This guy he's a liar. He's a liar about his emotions. He's a liar about his relationships. Venus, Neptune square, and wasn't getting any help for it. And what's interesting, he's got the South Node in Scorpio. And I think he gave into the South Node. I really do. I really think he gave into the South Node. Because he just went through his Saturn return. Because he's not supposed to be doing deep, dark, underhanded Scorpio shit in this lifetime. He's supposed to be Mr. Taurus, Mr. Rock Solid, Mr. I'll provide for you and our kids. But he's over here, and I think he indulged in his South Node in the 1st house, nonetheless, indulging in very dark personal gratification. And then Pluto here, just hanging out beneath the ascendant, right? Here we are right now. We've got the moon in Scorpio. We're talking about his Pluto in his 1st house. Anyway, this gives you a sense of his chart. What he really lacks here, like I've got him at his midheaven is water. He's got Saturn in Scorpio, and he has Pluto in the sign of Scorpio. So he's a millennial. But what he doesn't have, he has no water in any of his inner planets. So he has no empathy. He has no empathy. He could have a little bit of empathy with the Venus-Moon conjunction. That's possible. It's possible. I think in Aries, I think it kind of heats it up to a boiling point. Maybe he could kind of, how do I say this, approximate empathy, like a sociopath could, but he's got that Venus Moon conjunction, and it's not completely watery, but I think there is some to it. But he has no water here. And people that don't have any water in their personal planets tend to lack empathy. Bottom line, end of story. I was looking at Antares in his chart, and he has it in his, well, he has it in, everybody has it in Sag, because Antares is always right around this degree. It's not quite conjunct Uranus, but fairly close. Antares is, though, in opposition to Chiron, in opposition to his vertex. It feels to me like he was trying to mend something back together in a very dark sort of way. Probably was also possessed too. I mean, that's the other thing. Because I think there's a lot going on there. All right, so I gave you a picture of Chris Watts. All right, I'm going to show you another picture now. And this is where things get really trippy. Okay. See if I can find this thing. I'm doing all kinds of work tonight. Where did you go? Where did you go? I hate it when I have pictures ready to go, and then I don't. So I have to do this now. Do this. Give me 1 second. Okay. Here we go. All right. So I want you guys to check this out. There we go. One moment. All right, here we go. All right, so check this out. Now, what I'm going to show you now is I'm going to show you a picture of his wife and Nichole Kessinger. This is the only picture that people have seen of Nichole Kessinger. And I was really struck by how much they look alike. You know, his wife, Shannon Watts, attractive woman, very attractive woman, beautiful in her wedding picture. Here she is. This is the woman that Chris Watts had the affair with. Now, she claims that she didn't know anything about Shannon. That's not true. They actually have like texts and stuff, which shows that she knew about Shannon months before all this happened. And the first thing she did was, of course, talk to the feds, police, as quickly as possible. But I'm not saying that she was plotting the murder of his wife and his kids, but I think she knew something. I think she, and I'll show you why. But I just thought this is very interesting. And remember, he's got Chiron in Gemini, Mars in Gemini. He's got his vertex in Gemini, all in the 8th house. Okay. All right. Stop the share. I'm going to share something else with you. There's this. Okay. Hold on 1 sec. All right, here we go. So I did the same thing for her. And I did a rectification for her. And this is what I came up with. All right, so I have her, and probably not close to this, right? I don't know, maybe I am. I'm gonna give myself a benefit of the doubt. One of the things that I was looking for her was something that would kind of approach this darkness that she has, or at least, you know, was able to sort of transmit in that photo. So I was thinking maybe Pisces rising. Then as I played around with it a bit more, I realized that both her and Chris work for a petroleum company, in which case I have Neptune close to her midheaven. And her sun, guess what? Her sun is in Gemini. You're going to see what happens here in a second. And just as I had Chris with his Pluto in the first house, just by lining it up here with Taurus on the ascendant, Pluto shows up in her 7th house. So dark intensity through relationship, right? And he would have that darkness over here in his first house. They're separated by 3 years. She's born June 1st, 88. He's born May 15th, 1985. Okay, so you get a sense of her chart. And by the way, the only water she has in the personal planets is Mars, which is in Pisces, and it's in trine with Mercury and Chiron, and it's also in trine with Pluto. So she has some intensity. She's got a lot of stuff in Capricorn, and she's got that Sag moon. She's got a moon Uranus conjunction, which also tends to be impulsive as well. Not always, but it can be, you know, working out emotions. You know, this is Sagittarius, right? This is wanting to be free, wanting to be free. And her moon is born on a full moon. So she has an interesting chart. And when we put the two of them together now, which I'm going to do, we're going to look at their synastry. Let's see what we got here. This is it right here. Okay, so here's their synastry. All right, so again, this is his rising sign, Libra, which would put her Pluto, of course, because they're born around the same time, in his first house. Here's where it gets real interesting. This is his Mars in Gemini, and her sun is right on his Mars, right? And it's in the 8th house in Gemini. This is deeply compulsive. And then we have a Mars-Mars square right here. Their Mars in Pisces and his Mars in Gemini. To me, this is the, this is the sort of the tabula rasa of their relationship. This intense encounter, which I believe would be in his 8th house. But again, even if it wasn't in his 8th house, she still have her sun on his Mars, which is very intense. And Gemini, so showing up as 2 separate people or 2 separate couples. I think there's some very intense psychological dynamics going on here, and much of which is very dark. And her Jupiter is right on his true node. So there's a part of this connection with her that I think for him, in some ways, felt destined. When you get into something like this, it's like, oh, wow. It opens up the true node. It's like I found somebody who's, very kin to me in some ways, right? Because this is not insignificant, this conjunction. But again, what do we have here? We have squares. We have squares to Mars, and we have squares to Jupiter. And in a lot of ways, like he also, if you look at his chart, outside of his sun, he's got Mercury in Taurus too. Yeah. But I would feel like this Jupiter in Taurus squaring off against his Jupiter in Aries, especially here in the 4th house, which would be his family, again, based on the time that, I came up with, that it would be tugging at this kind of dynamic of expansion. And not in an easy way. I was talking about how Jupiter squares aren't bad. I think Jupiter squares in relationship can be really bad, especially if you're dealing with fixed signs, because you're dealing with elements probably that aren't meant to be changed. And now he's But it's like, why didn't he just get a divorce? Why did he just leave her? Why did he kill her? I mean, that's the real, to me, that flips me out, right? Is it the possession piece? Is it this eighth house? Something happened to this guy when he was young. Something happened to this guy when he was, and something slipped into him. Some other kind of consciousness slipped into him. And this triggered it right here. The Sun-Mars conjunction, right? And her moon is right on his Uranus, or very close to it. So again, that's kind of compulsive. There's a compulsive quality with this cluster of Sagittarius and Capricorn. And then in opposition, right? His Neptune in opposition with her Venus, her Mercury, her Chiron. That's kind of deceptive too. But I think she knew. I think she knew. That's my sense. I don't think maybe she knew to the extent that he was going to kill them, but she knew that there was stuff going on, and she knew that there was some darkness here. I don't think, again, I'm not going to, cast any aspersions that she was in on this thing. But I don't think she is as perhaps innocent as she's made out to be, because she was so forthright with the authorities, particularly because there's actually records of her having like online and text connection with him about his wife prior to the time that they met. She claims that they met in June, which would have put it right around this Gemini time, right? Which is, I think, is kind of interesting. But there's actual evidence that they knew each other longer than that. So I don't know. I was just kind of blown away by this whole thing. And then I thought, well, what's the astrological connection? And when I saw this Sun-Mars conjunction, and quite possibly in his eighth house, it really made a lot of sense to me. Made a lot of sense. Anyway, sign of the times. And it feels like, we're in a place where, and I know people, don't believe, in some of this stuff, but really feels like we're at a time now where people are these kind of open psychic wounds, and they could easily be occupied, by entities, and the entities can just have their way with them. It feels like we're entering into a phase where more and more of that is happening. We're going to see more and more random craziness with people. And I think it's because our spiritual shields are broken on a number of levels, both on a personal level and also on probably an interdimensional level. Our spiritual shields are broken. So, we've got this onslaught of these entities now that are coming through, probably thanks to CERN, no doubt. Anyway, it's a bit of a dark subject, right? But hey, the moon is in Scorpio, so we can explore that. By the way, her vertex and her part of fortune winds up in his 12th house, again, based on this time, which would be, again, Libra, secret, relationship, hidden, 12th house, correct? And yeah, and even here, right, her Mars is in his 5th house. That's like hot. Mars in somebody's 5th house is hot. It's explosive. It's like, it'd be romantic. It can be steamy, especially in Pisces. And then trining his Pluto, trining his ascendant. Yeah. Anyway, we got, it's going to be, it's going to be in the news for a while, and he'll fade away like Scott Peterson did. Although Scott Peterson, people still know who he was, right? Lacey Peterson. Anyway, dark material for a dark night. And I hope this exposition of the synastry charts between Chris Watts and Nichole Kessinger has offered, at the very least, some insight, perhaps, into the astrological workings of why he did what he did. Okay, let me get back into you guys in chat mode. See what we're talking about in there. What's your feedback on this guy, right? Hey, JCX, what's your feedback on these charts? Can multiple personalities show up in a chart? Yes, they can. It's Gemini. Gemini, especially in the eighth house or the 12th house, sometimes the third house, you can see multiple personality. Absolutely. The bipolar people I know are going through manic phase now. I gotta say, working through Moon, Uranus, Pluto, am I really digging that placement finally? Well, when you get through it, you know, you can get through anything. Possibly love bites in our Eva Lorgren, Dark Side of Cupid stuff. Yeah, I have actually. The Moon Uranus gave her quick insight into his insanity. Maybe he was influenced by common patriarchal complex, Madonna whore. I don't know about. I think something happened to him. He's got kind of a classic case of like a split consciousness with that Mars Chiron conjunction in Gemini. Something happened. Oh, it's insane how much they look like, right? They do look similar. That's that Gemini thing. Oh, here's another weird thing. Okay. These times the opposite is also possible. Spontaneous. Yeah, I think so too. I think spontaneous awakening is possible. Thanks for reminding Linda. That's true as well. So here's another weird thing. I want to show you one more weird thing about this thing. Okay. Here we go. This is interesting. At least I think it's interesting. Let me find the right. Okay, this is a trip. This is when we get into like, you know, it's kind of astro matrix where things just get really kind of off the wall. I'm going to show you this. All right. This is weird. This is totally weird. Let me find this thing. Come on. Come on. I hate it when the computer doesn't do what I want it to. Here we go. Okay. Now keep in mind, all right, the images of the two women that we saw. Okay. Keep in mind, all right, what they look like. Okay. I just stumbled upon this. This is weird. Here we go. Okay, you see this woman? Doesn't she kind of look like the other two women in some ways? Her name is Shannon Watts. And she is a mother who is a former like CEO, and she's an advocate of gun control. And she's like a mom against violence, okay? And she has the same last name, same name as this other woman, Shannon Watts. But her name is spelled different. She's Shannon, and the other Shannon is Shannan, right? And that gets into the whole like Gemini thing that's kind of running through this whole program. You know, I mean, this is kind of, because when I saw this, I'm like, is that her? It's like, wow, she looks kind of different there. But she looks so different that I didn't think it was her. And then I realized it's not her. It's this other woman who's involved in this gun control thing, but they both have the same name. I mean, how many, all right, don't you guys think that that's just a little weird and a little freaky? Huh? It's weird, right? Hard to believe in the gun control chick. I know, right? Isn't it weird? Robert, have you seen the movie Le Bonheur? Gemini director Agnes Varda. Okay, you know what? I got a funny story for you. I was flying back from California on Friday, and I was sitting next to this young woman who was living in Sausalito, and we started talking about the boats, the houseboats in Sausalito. And I used to go to parties on a boat called the Varda, which was at one point in the possession of Varda, the director. And so I used to go to parties on his boat. So there's your Varda connection. I think possession too, maybe an op. Yes, her pick seems posed. The weird that the whole thing with the two Shannon Wattses, one's a mom against violence, the other mom is like, dies at the hand of violence, and then you've got the other woman who kind of looks like his wife. I mean, the whole thing is just completely kind of matrixed out. It's just totally matrixed out. And you read that and you get into like, wow, we live in a really unusual place and time. And that's one of the things we get into with the webinar is we get into stuff like this. And because there's so many interesting signs and signifiers and syncs that are floating around. I guess the real interesting kind of component to it is to make meaning of it. So when I dive into that, it's like now we're into this kind of Gemini vortex where we're moving into this almost split universe. People that kind of look alike and and have similar sorts of names, and it's very odd. It's almost like we're moving into this multiverse. You look at an event like this, and it really trips you out because it just starts at this one point. It goes in all these different directions, and it feels pretty multiversic, which for some people might be really hard to deal with in some ways, right? But I think it's kind of interesting. Not interesting to the point where I think it's a game or anything, because clearly some lives were affected by what happened in a very, very deep way. People that knew and loved that young woman and those kids, their parents and friends. I mean, it's a heavy trip they'll never get over, right? But clearly there's something that's being sort of enunciated and brought to our attention. And I think it's about sort of this multiversic consciousness now. In that event, you look at those players and you see how they line up. That event sort of begins to trend in that direction. All right. Also, male escort with Uber Lips claim an affair with Watts. Oh, that's right. Yeah, I saw that too. Yeah, that would be a very Gemini thing, wouldn't it? That'd be a total Gemini thing. Like bisexuality, totally. She says, tired of the whole corrupt game duality, etc. Where's evidence of a supreme, divine, supreme intelligence? I think you have to really just simplify things and hang out in nature and hang out with, like Jasper. To me, Jasper is he's like a symbol of divine intelligence. His parents deny that he killed his family, according to the Coloradoan. Well, that's interesting that his parents would deny that. If he didn't kill his family, then why did he plead guilty? Right? Why did he plead guilty? Apparently psychopaths do it all. Why did he plead guilty? Maybe his parents claim he didn't do it because his parents might have been in on his programming at some point, Yeah, maybe that's why. I sometimes wonder if these true crime stories are just smaller false flags. I think you have a really good point, Maka, and I think sometimes they are. I think sometimes people don't die. Like there's a theory that that JonBenet Ramsey's actually alive. JonBenet Ramsey's actually. So I think sometimes there are false flags. Yeah, I think so. Not all of them do. Let's see. Could have been programmed. He seems like he could have been programmed. I mean, when you get into that Mars-Chiron conjunction in Gemini, I mean, that to me, that's a cleaving of the consciousness. And look, we can go back, you know, we can get into, here, I'll just bring this chart up again. Let me see if I can find it. Hold on. Here it is. Okay, here we go. I'm going to bring this chart back up again. So I'll show you something. Some of you guys know this. Right here. His Chiron is at 7 degrees Gemini, which means that he had his chirotic crisis somewhere between the age of 6 and 8, right? So he had an event at some point in his life, well, between the age of 6 and 8. That's where he fell, because that's when we go into our chirotic crisis, we basically fall. There's like a fall from grace in some ways. There's a fall from sort of the semblance of normalcy. So it's going to be somewhere between 0 and 29. And I know for a fact that when I was 28, I went into my chirotic crisis. I know for a fact. I know for I look at it and, yep, 28, that's when it happened. Right. And I've seen too many charts. Sometimes people will not remember, or maybe it will be minor. But I guarantee you, in most instances, it is either just before this degree or just after that degree. So it's about this would be 7 years old. So between 6 and 7, he went through something. And that something was a split. He was split in two. What's the Sabian symbol for that? Let's look at the Sabian symbol for that. This whole thing with these women blow me away. Especially this other woman who's the gun rights person. It would be weird if she was a Sagittarius, a Gemini too. Okay, so let's check out 7 and 8 Gemini. What does Dane Rudyard have to say about 7 and 8 Gemini? Oh, this is interesting. Okay, so if we go to 8 Gemini, which we would, the Sabian symbol here, I'll drop it down. I'll do a share screen here. Check this out. This is interesting. And I love Rudyard's interpretations. So Gemini 8, aroused strikers surround the factory. So the keynote is the disruptive power of the ambitious mind upon the organic wholeness of human relationship. I'll read that again. The disruptive power of the ambitious mind upon the organic wholeness of human relationship. That's the degree of his Chiron. You always go one up, right, with the Sabian symbols. We are dealing in this sequence of symbols with man's discovery of the new powers residing in his special contribution to the total organism of this planet Earth. His consciousness and aggressive mind, the first stage, phase 66, dealt with oil. He worked for a petroleum company, the typical form of energy which the modern mind has made available. These symbols were revealed before atomic energy was even thought of as practical possibility. Now we see in this new symbol of a pictorial indication of what the use of this intellect-generated energy inevitably leads to: industrial unrest and violence. Okay, all right. As man manages to rape the earth in order to demonstrate his power and intensify his pleasures and his sense of proud mastery, conflicts and disruptive processes are inevitably initiated. That's his Chiron right there in the 8th house. The arousal is presented to us here in its collective social form because we have reached the emotional cultural level. the type of power generated by the analytical intellectual faculties is essentially disruptive. It is based on the destruction of matter and invites egocentric hoarding and spoliation, and in general privileges of one kind or another. This leads to a revolt against privileges. Very interesting. Very interesting. So the factory represents the rape of the planet, right? That the factory is this concentration of intellectual power that is forged into machines, and the machines can have some mastery over the material realm. But at some point it becomes like completely disassociated from any emotional connection. And some could say that the industrial age leads us into a relative psychosis, right? And then that's when there's something that happens inside of the factory. People go on strike because they're the ones that are actually priming the machines, theoretically, right? So this is interesting. The disruptive power of the ambitious mind upon the organic wholeness of human relationship. That's his Chiron. Very interesting. Very interesting. All right, let me check back in with you guys, see what you have to say about that. All right, you said, Jesus, wow, the keynote. Yeah, it's my daughter's son's Sabian. Hello there, walk on the high side of the street. Yeah, do your best. They're deaf wounded healers. I don't know about that. Let's see, what is up with Sun conjunct Chiron people? I know so many. I think they're really wounded people. And they have a lot to overcome. And I think they can, but it's wounded. What's up, cheeky monkey? What's happening? Anyway, there you go. That's Mr. Chris Watts's Sabian in the first Chiron. I don't want to go a whole lot tonight. I think we're into about 90 minutes, but I did want to, because I want to do some stuff next Sunday night. I want to get into Trump's chart. Trump's always fascinating for me. I know. He's obnoxious, but I want to get into his chart. And let's see. So here I've got Trump's chart for the eclipse that's coming up. Let's see if I can find it. I got Trump in China. All right, I think this is it right here. Let's check out his chart. All right, so this is the eclipse that's happening on Saturday. This is for our friend Trump in the White House. His chart. Okay, here we go. So this eclipse is taking place in his 5th house. And you can see here where he's going through a very interesting time. This true node is going through his, in Cancer's, making this journey through the 11th house. And it's almost completely conjunct Saturn. He's got Saturn at 23 Cancer, and the true node is at 28 Cancer. And one of the things that he's been doing over the course of like the last 2 to 3 weeks is he's really, in his own way, turned the tide on things. Now, Trump is a guy that will always use chaos to his advantage because he's the master of chaos with the Sun-Uranus conjunction, true node, and Gemini right here. And there's his moon, he's born in a lunar eclipse, right? South node would be down here. Anyway, he uses chaos as one of his, it's like that's his 5th element is chaos. So when he basically, what I think happened is I think he got blackmailed. And I'm not the only one, by the way. Wesley Clark thinks he got blackmailed too. There are a number of people who think he got blackmailed by Erdogan. And the reason why is because the Turks had the embassy wired completely. That's number one. They've recorded everything. And number two, they got into WhatsApp, and they knew that that Jared Kushner and Ben Salman were communicating on WhatsApp, and they have all their communiques between them. And so what they did is there was a phone call. I mean, you know, Trump and Erdogan had a phone call, and basically Erdogan said, "Look, you know, I'm gonna, you know, I could nail your son-in-law, you know, because your son-in-law, you know, looks like he has some foreknowledge, or at the very least, he knows what happened, and he's not being forthright. Of course, they're not going to be forthright because, you know, it's him and Jared Kushner who did that big arms deal with Saudi Arabia right when, you know, right when he got into office. Remember that picture of him in the globe, that weird thing? That was so weird. Anyway, so they did a big deal. They did a multi-billion-dollar deal, Lockheed and all these arms manufacturers. So not only is he getting money from bin Salman for that, but he's got those contracts that they have to honor, right? These are big power players. Like these companies, they don't fuck around. You know, these arms manufacturers, they're serious. So he's got these contracts he has to, and I'm not giving him a pass, trust me. But I know why he's doing what he's doing. And I'm not sure any other president wouldn't be doing the same thing. It just so happens that Trump is under an excruciating x-ray because he's got this Mars on his ascendant. He's always going to provoke people. So what happens here is he has this thing now. He's like, okay, well, I guess I got to get out of Syria because Erdogan wants to attack the Kurds and wants to get into northern Iraq, which case he's going to have a hassle with Israel because Israel wants to get into northern Iraq too. And it's all because of their oil and gas that, you know, that everyone wants to sit on in northern Iraq. So he's going to get out and he's going to look like he's, you know, really taking care of the troops. But he goes one step further. He goes and he's going to bring people out of Afghanistan too. Now, maybe he's got a side deal with Erdogan and Erdogan wants to take over the opium trade. I don't know. But he's taking it one step further, right? He's taking the chaos. He's like, okay, let's not just make it Syria, let's make it Afghanistan. Now, there's a very good chance that what will happen is that once our troops are out of that area, that we're going to be dealing with privatized armies and people like Z, formerly Blackwater, Eric Prince, who happens to be the son of Betsy DeVos, son-in-law of Betsy DeVos, who is the head of she's the Secretary of Education, right? So there's a family thing going on, and I would not be surprised if they go in with, you know, these corporate mercenaries. But in some ways, it's like, you know what? Those guys are getting paid. They're getting paid to go get killed. They're getting paid to go hang out and squat on resources so other people don't take it. These other people who are volunteering, essentially, getting shit pay, coming back, mangled up, fucked up. At the very least, you know, they'll be taken out of the mix, you know, the pay people, whatever. They're getting paid to take that kind of abuse. I know, you know, morally, I'm not into the whole thing anyway, but morally, I can co-sign on that because they're making an agreement. They're making a considerable amount of money in order to do that. I think that's probably what's going to happen. But what Trump does is he uses chaos to his advantage. And he says, okay, I'm going to use this energy. It's right here. I'm going to use this energy. And I'm going to take it up one level. But what's happening here is that he's also, with this point, like this is his base. Venus, Saturn, Mercury, Cancer, this is his base right here. These are the people. So what is he doing now? He's like, well, we're not going to, you know, I'm not going to sign that budget until we get the wall, which is theoretically what his base wants. Now, again, you know, the Harris poll may say something different, but I think once he started to block Ann Coulter, he'd had enough about him not doing the wall. Now he's dead set on having this wall done. This is for the next roughly year and a half. This true node is going through his 11th house, and he's going to do everything he can to connect with his base because it's Cancerian, right? Make America great again. Cancer looks backwards, looks to the past. Now, if he can make it through this time, that's a big if, by the way. If he can make it through this time, he's going to have his nodal return about a year and a half from now, almost 2 years from now, which sets him up for 2020. right here. He'd have his nodal return right around the election of 2020, if he makes it through this time. Right now, this eclipse is going through his 5th house, and this is where his children are. And I think that he's under extreme pressure at this point to make a deal or resign, because it's not just him, or it's not just his base, but it's his children, right? And he has to think about if they're going to go after his kids and ruin the entirety of his, whatever you think of him, his business, his enterprise. So none of it, so all of his kids are just completely wiped out. He won't allow that to happen. He will step down as a result of that. So this is where the eclipse is taking place. Now, his son, Don Jr., happens to be a Capricorn. So this eclipse is going to be big around Don Jr. Just keep that in mind. This is a big eclipse for Trump, especially as it relates to his children. There's some other stuff going on here. What else is happening? He's got transiting Mars and Chiron. Transiting Mars is going through his 8th house now, getting close to Aries. What's his Neptune at? His Neptune's at 5 Libra. He better be careful. He better be careful after the beginning of the year. He's got Mars going through his 8th house in Aries, opposite Neptune. He could be betrayed with this Mars-Neptune opposition after the first of the year. Like, I think this would be, to me, this would be an assassination aspect right here, or at the very least, a very deep betrayal. Now, remember, the 8th house is other people's money too. And this Mars could have something to do with aggressively going after his tax returns. You know what's interesting about this eclipse is that it almost completely matches his chart. You know, it almost, because I have it at Washington, D.C. at 8:29 p.m. and it's only just a few degrees off of his own chart. That's really interesting. It almost doesn't, it rarely gets that exact. Wow. Fascinating, fascinating stuff. Anyway, keep your eye out for Trump. After the 1st, so we're talking, you know, from the 2nd roughly through the 8th, right here, that Mars transit through his 8th house, opposite Neptune in his 2nd house. But this eclipse is going to be big for him. But if he makes it through this time, and I've said this before, it's a big if. It's a big if. But if he makes it through this time, he gets up here, gets that true node up into his 10th house, I think there's a chance he could be reelected. Believe it or not. Believe it or not. What a trippy presidency. What a weird time, right? What a very strange time we're living in. And this guy is like, he's like the conductor of it, in a bad way, but also in kind of a good way. I mean, when did any president say we're going to get out of the Middle East? When? Obama didn't. Said he would. He has some troop withdrawal from Iraq, but it wasn't like they completely left Iraq. There's still people in Iraq. We still have troops there. We totally have troops there. It wasn't a full pullout. But as soon as they pulled them out of Iraq, they moved them over to Syria for their fake bullshit war on ISIS, which was really a war in Syria. Anyway, there hasn't been any other presidents that were, hey, let's get out of here. And you would think, the Democrats used to be the party, the anti-war party, and they're not. They're not the anti-war party anymore. It's just completely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. They're not the anti-war party at all. Because now they're like hawks. It's like the Democrats became neocons overnight. Trump turned them all into neocons. All right, let's see what you guys have to say about that little trip. Let's see. What do we have? Fun stuff hitting Trump 2019. Kushner and Salmon also had Khashoggi killed. Yeah, so that would be one of the That would be one of the damning pieces of evidence in the WhatsApp. Turkey will betray him, of course. Suitcase of money can't be traced. Won't there be extreme chaos if he were to step down? No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think they'd have Mike Pence waiting in the wings, but they want to go after Pence too. They want to Pence. Anybody that's a Republican that they don't approve of, they want to go after. What else? Good on more Trump stuff. I think you were spot on the wounded. Okay, what else? Anything else? Look at Jasper's ear. He's got that shadow of his ear, right? Say hi to people, Jasper. You say hi. See his ear. There he is. There he is. The silhouette head. We will not lose him. He's prayed by hiring. There's something about Trump. Every time somebody fucks him over, something happens to them. It's amazing to watch. You know, whether it's Robert De Niro or, Alec Baldwin or who, it's amazing. These guys just, wind up going through hell because they mess with them. There's something supernatural about Trump. Yeah, Pence is apparently they've got kids stuff on Pence. That's like Pence's thing, right? Kids. I mean, I think they're all into kids. Pelosi for prez. We're all into kids. Yeah, I think it's Pence. Yeah. There is a mention of a nude selfie in the Mueller investigation. What do you think, Jasper? What do you think of Pence? Are you a Pence person? No, he's not a Pence person. Okay. I think we're going to get out of here. Did you guys go for a decent ride tonight? Was it a decent ride? All is good. Did you guys go for a decent ride? Trump, I got to just say, Trump surprises. There's something. I think Trump is having a change of conscience. I think Trump is having a weird change of conscience. I don't know. I don't know if it's this, this pop evangelist Paul. I don't know what's going on with the guy. There's something is happening with him. And he's going, there's something shifting with Trump, and I can feel it. And I'm not trying to project into him, because I'm pretty good at this stuff. There's something going on with this guy. I think we're seeing a tidal change. And he may, he just may be letting it all hang out before he has to step out. But there's something. Cato said, walked 5 miles today, ate a steak. Steak was good. He and Melania, when they were visiting troops, are truly happy. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think that there was something very real about that moment, and everybody was just giving them shit for, we live in such a cynical universe now. It's really, difficult to wrap our heads around sometimes. Sticky Marks, peace of mind. I wish it for all. Can free the world. Yes. Yes, peace of mind. Peace of mind is essential. If you have it. Trump shifted when Bush died. That's a really good observation, Chris and Steve. Trump shifted. I would tend to agree with that. I mean, think of the enormous, nefarious shadow the old man cast over everything. Right? Think of that. Well, he's going through a phase. Just be aware. Keep your eyes on the prize. Basically from the 2nd through the 8th with his Mars going through his 8th house. All right, hey, I'm out of here. Thank you. I'll be back. I think I'm going to do a show tomorrow. I'm going to do 15 minutes of flame tomorrow. I'll be back. I think so. We'll play it by ear, right, Jasper? Right? Yeah. Okay. Hey, so the very least, I'll be back tomorrow, New Year's Day. Maybe not so much, but definitely after New Year's Day. Maybe I'll do like kind of an end of year show tomorrow. I got nothing cooking. All right. Love you all. What a great group you are. Fantastic chat room. And I think we'll do something in the morning. All right. Have a wonderful Sunday night. and hang on to that peace of mind. I'll see you tomorrow.